Danny Gagnon is a digital media professor and a millennial in a primarily boomer-saturated business world who helps organizations drive business through their online presence and digital marketing. Please help me welcome Danny.
So I'm Danny. I actually own a social media marketing firm here in Toronto. You have to bear with me. I'm used to kind of walking around a lot when I speak, and I usually look like a rapper. So this standing thing is going to be new for me.
Just use the arrows.
Great, thanks. Just quick warning, I am a millennial, so I might have a hard time staying off Instagram for the next hour. If I have to interrupt, I'm sorry in advance. So we're going to hop right into things with this cool dude. He's a young guy. You guys probably recognize him. Sigmund Freud. I've made a little update here to make him look a little bit more swag. That's better. The reason why I'm talking about him is he's actually had a really big part in the way marketing has changed and evolved. So we're going to talk a bit about the history of marketing before we dive into social media. It's important to know how social media has come to be in order to actually use it properly today. So Sigmund Freud did work on psychology, and he actually wrote quite a few books that his nephew, Edward Bernays, there we go, oh wait, hold on. There we go, that's better. Edward Bernays used. So he was a big fan of his uncle's work. Edward Bernays worked for the US government during World War I. He was a propaganda expert. So he actually was responsible for all the propaganda during the war and used his uncle's work to manipulate people into thinking certain ideas about war. Now, believe it or not, he was actually hired by the US government to make a new word for propaganda after the war was over. And he came up with the new word, public relations. There's always like 5 people who laugh at that, and I know they understand how grim and creepy it is. Here's a great quote. Modern propaganda is a consistent, enduring effort to create or shape events to influence the relations of the public to an enterprise, idea, or group. Now, I am completely rattled every time I think about the idea that marketing was born from war propaganda. It seems completely creepy, but he actually went on to work with a lot of brands we know today. So at the time when he created this word public relations, there had actually never been a PR campaign or a marketing campaign before. People had only really bought things because they needed them, not because they wanted them. So he had his first client, of course, Lucky Strike cigarettes, because we all needed to smoke more, right? So Lucky Strikes approached him with a major problem. They said, hey, we're missing out on half of our market. Women weren't smoking because at the time it was taboo for women to smoke. So he came up with this idea where he hired a bunch of female models. So this was the first marketing campaign. Obviously, it was a big lie at the beginning, right? That's what marketing is. So he hired a bunch of models and told the media that they were suffragettes, women's rights fighters. He put them in the middle of the New York parade, and when all eyes were upon them, he called them the torches of freedom, and they all took out cigarettes and lit them in order to show to be equal and powerful as men, you had to smoke. Well, the next day, Lucky Strike sold about 18% more product. And after that moment in history, women started smoking. It was the first moment that it was proven that you could manipulate masses, play on their desires in order to get them to buy things. He went on to work with brands we know like Ford, Betty Crocker, Chrysler, and the whole idea of Edward Bernays was actually the first idea of the marketing media campaign. It's where Mad Men originally came from. Did anyone watch Mad Men? You know how they were always trying to sell cigarettes? But it's really important to know about why this started and how it's impacted things today. So I like talking about the beginning of a Betty Crocker ad. So let's say we're back in the day, we open up a magazine, we see a Betty Crocker ad for cake, and it says, Betty Crocker is the best cake mix, okay? Now at the time, we probably would have believed it, and we would have gone to the store and bought the cake mix. And after generations of making Betty Crocker cake, what would we have realized? We realized that Betty Crocker is not the best cake, okay? Like, it's cool, you can go to No Frills, you can pick it up for $1, the dollar days, yeah, right? Or if, all the potheads outside today, they probably are excited to go home and make some rainbow sprinkle cake with the Betty Crocker mix. But if you want like the best cake, you can like get your mom to bake one. Maybe you go to the bakery down the street. Even Loblaws probably has better cake than Betty Crocker, right? So Betty Crocker can no longer in the ad campaign say, we make the best cake mix. In the same way Coca-Cola can no longer say, we are healthy. It's just impossible because we're all standing there like, really, right? We all know. It's because we're all hyper aware of advertising, and we know advertising is a lie. So, this brings me to my major point here, that social media is social. And while this sentence here, it might seem like the most obvious sentence because the word social is in social media, you have no idea how hard my job is working with companies when I sit down with them and I'm like, what are your goals with social media? And everyone's like, marketing. And I'm like, we can't do that. It's actually a social tool. And most people get really upset because they're like, but I need to sell. I need to spread information. I need more people to see this. I need this. And I'm like, listen, social media was originally created as a social tool, okay? Zuckerberg created it as a social tool. Twitter, Instagram, they're all social tools. Yes, over time we have manipulated it and Facebook's allowed us to do things like do advertising. The problem is that the masses are aware of advertising. It's why we have things like Netflix, or why we have PVR, or why when the radio comes on and there's a commercial break, we actually change the channel. We're all hyper aware of advertising. So what do you think happens when we're scrolling through Facebook? We're like killing half an hour at work. We want to see like some hot, juicy celeb gossip, like who lost weight last year, you know? Or we want to see like a funny cat video, right? And then we see like an IKEA ad for a couch. I'm like, I don't want to buy a couch. Who do you think I am? I'm not here to buy a couch. No one goes on Facebook to buy a couch, right? You want to kill time, you want to see friends and family, you want to see updates. You're there for social reasons. So the problem is when businesses go in with a marketing idea on social media and they try to market themselves in the old school traditional way, people get very turned off. But most people don't know what else to do on social media. It makes sense that if you're a coffee shop, you want to be posting, hey, today we have coffee for $2.49. The next day, hey, today we have coffee and a muffin for $2.49, right? It's naturally what you want to do, but unfortunately it does not work. So what I want you guys to do today for my talk is to have a bit of an open mind and try to think about if your business was a person, what would it be posting about? How would it have a personality? How would you let your knowledge and brand show if your business was actually a person, okay? So we're just going to hop into making fun of H&M because this is my favorite pastime. So as you can see here, H&M has almost 34 million likes. How many people here would like to be in that position? Show of hands. Really, everyone else is lying. You're just liars. Okay, yeah, 34 million likes. It looks bomb. Okay, so here's the funny thing. Ready? Boom. So this H&M post is not. I didn't just like pull the worst post I could find to prove my point. This is actually like all their Facebook posts. That's 10 likes you see, no comments, and was there a share? No shares. So this is actually pretty typical for an H&M Facebook post, that they have 34 million likes but get very minimal reactions on their posts. How many people feel better about the social media efforts right now? Yeah, that's what I'm here for, okay? So this is a problem, obviously, and I'm going to actually explain why this is happening. And after I finish explaining that, you're going to understand what's going on with your Facebook pages as well, or why people aren't seeing your content, and then hopefully we can all school H&M. All right, so this is the beginning of what I like to call the algorithm nightmare. Now, the algorithms are not like publicly released. An algorithm is a back-end code that controls everything you see on Facebook, Instagram, the internet, everything digital, everything Jesse was speaking about. It's all about algorithms and codes, okay? So we're going to go through my kind of organization of the algorithms today, their popularity, interaction, relevance, and promotional rules. And I'm going to explain how each of those work. Now, it's important to note two things. That one, these algorithms are actually there to protect the consumer. So while they may seem insanely annoying to business owners, that you're just like, this is ruining my life, we won't have a Facebook if consumers aren't using it. So it's actually there to make sure consumers want to use Facebook. So it is a good thing, as annoying as it may be. Second thing to note is that if you have fans on your Facebook page, or if you have followers on Twitter or Instagram, it is no longer a guarantee that anyone is going to see your content. It used to be that if someone liked your Facebook page, they were going to see your updates. That is no longer a thing, okay? So we don't need to get super excited about getting page likes anymore. I'm going to get more into that later, but just don't stress about it. Obviously, when you see H&M and their 34 million likes, it doesn't really do much for them anymore, right? So let's get into the algorithm and everything will become a little bit more clear. So here we're going to start with the popularity algorithm. It's all about content driving meaningful interactions, okay? God, I can't stand the sight of this. Does anyone recognize this? It's Heavenly Hash. This was the ice cream of my youth. I don't know why, I don't know if it's a baby boomer thing, but my mom only bought Heavenly Hash ice cream growing up. I don't know if it was the 90s, it was the coolest flavor they had. But until I was 17 and moved out, I actually didn't realize there was another flavor of ice cream. And I remember getting to the grocery store and staring at the wall of opportunity, and I felt like my mom had just ruined my youth. It's part of the reason why I think I got so rebellious. The first time I ate Rocky Road, which I think is a little bit better than Heavenly Hash, I felt a whole lot better. So why am I talking about Heavenly Hash today? Well, because if I posted this on my Facebook right now, and I asked a simple question, how many of you love or hate Heavenly Hash ice cream? I guarantee I would end up creating some sort of drama on my Facebook page, aside from my mom commenting, probably being you have no respect for how well you had it being raised. And then, my friends being I don't even know what that ice cream is, and me being right, I told you. And then so all these people commenting. Now that is actually deemed by Facebook as meaningful interaction, believe it or not, even though it's about this horrible ice cream flavor. Meaningful interaction to Facebook means reactions, comments, comments on comments, and shares, okay? So your content will actually only get seen if it gets those things. Now here's the problem. This is what I call the black hole of death, okay? It's a catch-22. If you post something and no one comments on it or reacts to it, then no one can see your content for them to comment and react to it, which means no one's going to continue to see your content, and you get stuck in this black hole cycle where no one's ever seeing your content ever, right? Now this cycle of death is actually part of the problem H&M is having right now. It's they can't get anyone to see their content because no one's ever commenting on their content, and so no one sees their content and no one can comment on it. It's sketchy and sucks, right? It's not fun. So this is a major issue for content. So one of your main goals for content creation for social media is posting content that will actually create meaningful interactions. Now, what kind of content makes that meaningful interaction? Literally anything. This is Doge. Does anyone here know Doge? Anyone? Oh, there's a few people. I'm surprised. Okay, great. So Doge is a bit of an internet sensation. I'm going to tell a story about how this dog got internet famous. A woman in Japan simply posted a few photos of her dog on her website. She was not famous by any means. She was a normal person. And this photo was one of the photos. And someone on the internet stumbled upon her website, saw this photo, and posted it on social media saying, check out this weird Doge. And they just spelled dog, D-O-G-E, because they thought it was funny. They're like, look, that's not a dog, that's a Doge. Right? So what happened, of course, was that the dog became an internet sensation overnight. Merchandise, masks, stickers, memes of this Doge became so popular that the internet just exploded. Now, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they all decided this was a meaningful Doge. Okay? So it didn't matter if someone was actually posting something from their company that day saying, I have something for a meaningful interaction. Here's a philosophical view on the street cracks in Toronto today. Doesn't matter. If the Doge is meaningful to Facebook that day, your content's not getting seen. It's all about that Doge, okay? So it's important to remember, meaningful doesn't actually have to be meaningful. Meaningful is derived from what the masses want to be sharing and talking about, okay? So you've actually got to figure out what the masses are talking about. Now, this is a photo of me as a wizard. It's pretty accurate, I would say. Now, the reason why I'm showing this is because it's one of my most embarrassing photos on Facebook. And another way the popularity algorithm really has an impact on content is that it doesn't have to do with time that you post anymore. Everyone used to be obsessed with you need to post at 2 p.m. Don't post at 2:05. It has to be 2 p.m. That doesn't matter anymore. And it's because of the way the popularity algorithm works. So get this. Have you guys ever had a really embarrassing photo buried deep in your Facebook feed, right? It's somewhere no one can see, and you're like, thank God, that is never going to get seen again. Then one of your friends is bored one day and goes through all your photos and finds it, and they start commenting on it, and then suddenly you have like 29 people commenting. Your new boyfriend sees it, and you're just like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. That happens because of the popularity algorithm. As soon as people start reacting and commenting on content again, it comes back into the mix. So it doesn't matter that this photo was posted 5 years ago. Meaningful interactions are about when people are commenting and sharing and reacting to it now. Okay, does that make sense? So it's all about when people are reacting to that content. So just to go back over it, it's all about comments, shares, and reactions, and they can be positive or negative, okay? So even if you react angry to someone, so you're helping their content go further, okay? So any of that stuff actually helps you in the popularity algorithm. It's focusing on meaningful interactions. So what can create those meaningful interactions? Private shares count. So guess what? If you share something into a Facebook Messenger, it still adds to the popularity algorithm of that post. So that's really beneficial for small businesses. So even if you don't see that someone has shared something, because you wouldn't see if they shared it privately, it doesn't matter. It still helps you. And content can literally float on the internet forever. This Doge is forever going to be in our lives, okay? We'll forget about it, and 10 years later, it'll be back. All right, interaction algorithm. This one's about the person, not the content. Now this one, my mom gets all messed up about. So I'm going to use my family as a great example of how to explain this. This is me and my parents. My mom's in the back with Corona. They're retired. Now, my parents are actually one of the only baby boomers I know that actually retired at 54. I'm an only child, so they were just like, peace. And they went to Florida. They're snowbirds. So they live between Florida and Montreal. And my parents always post these kinds of things on Facebook. So either my dad scraping snow off windshields looking angry, or them drinking at a beach. That's pretty much the only content they post. It's those two posts. So sometimes my mom will call me and she sounds really pissed off. She's like, why didn't you like that photo I posted of your dad at the beach? And she's insulted. And I'm like, what photo? She's like, the one I posted on Facebook? I'm like, I didn't see it. She's like, how is that possible? Your Aunt Michelle saw it, your grandma saw it, your cousin Jonathan saw it. And I'm like, I didn't see it. And she's like, how is that possible? And I'm like, let me tell you about the interaction algorithm, okay, Mom? All right? So this is what happened, okay? What happened was my mom goes on Facebook every day, and because I'm her only child and she's obsessed with me, she types my name into the Facebook search bar, right? Instead of just scrolling her feed, she must look me up. So she goes to my profile. Now when she visits my profile and starts clicking on all my content, Facebook's like, ding, she's interested in Danny. We're going to show her all of Danny's content all the time. And that's what happens every single day, all right? Now, this only works one way. So when I don't look at my mom's stuff on Facebook because she calls me 20 times a day, I don't need to look her up, I know what's up, I actually don't see any of her content. Now, this doesn't just work with people. It works with brands as well. So even though I've liked the NASA page, I'm obsessed with space. You know how they found so many new planets this year? It's not even news anymore. They're like, planet with water. You're like, oh my God. They're like, maybe another planet with water. You're like, okay. Now it's planet with water. We're like, we're never going to get there. Right? We stopped kind of caring about the NASA news. So now I get an update and I'm like, and I scroll by it. And then suddenly I'm like, why haven't I seen NASA updates in forever in my feed? I really want to know what's up with NASA. Because I didn't click on their content one time, Facebook was like, Danny's not interested in NASA anymore. Take that off her feed. So suddenly I'm now getting feeds that are brands that I've interacted with recently. It's not only about the ones that I've liked. If I like a brand page and I don't interact with it frequently, I'll actually stop seeing their updates. Can anyone see the black hole of death coming back here? So here's another catch-22, right? If you have fans and your content goes in front of them and they don't react or comment on it right away, they're going to stop seeing it. And that means next time you post something, no one's going to interact on it, and then you're H&M, right? Sucks. Now, this actually works in a whole other way. Here's Coca-Cola's page. I've liked their page. I like harassing them because I think it's really funny. So you'll see here, there's a little messenger thing, and I messaged them saying, did you know that I love you? And then they didn't get back to me, so I sent them a heart another day, and they still didn't get back to me. And then I was like, are you not replying? That's cold, right? And they finally got back to me, being like, cool, thanks, Danny. And I'm like, the person at Coke's probably like, who is this human? like, go away. But after I had this conversation with them, it was like harassment, but I actually started getting their updates. So Facebook Messenger actually triggers this as well. It's really interesting because a lot of people don't realize it actually only works one way, not both ways. So if you have a conversation with someone over like a DM on Twitter or Instagram or private messenger on Facebook, then you'll both see each other's updates. But if only one person messages you and you don't message back, they're going to see your updates, but you won't see theirs. You guys have probably noticed these things happening. Have you ever like run into someone on the street that you haven't seen in like a decade or something, but they're friends with you on Facebook, but you basically forgot they existed? And you run into them, and I'll be like, oh, hey, and it's like, hey, Danny, it's Bob, haven't seen you in forever. I'm like, yeah, how's it going? I'm like, I have no idea who this dude is. Like, no idea. I'm like, how are you? He's like, good. Oh my God, I saw your cat the other day. He's so cute. And those new jeans you got, what, they were from H&M? They looked so good on you. And I'm just like, holy crap, is this guy a stalker? No, he's not. It's just what has happened is that he probably commented on something of mine or liked it. And I don't really notice when people like my photos because I typically get quite a few likes because I have like 5,000 friends on Facebook because of these conferences I do and everyone tries to add me. So I don't notice when someone like Bob likes my content. So Bob probably gets my updates all the time in his newsfeed and I don't see anything he posts. So it's always one way. Now, again, problem for businesses. How many people wake up in the morning and they're like, oh, I'm going to see what's up with Coca-Cola today. Coca-Cola, like no one does that. No one messages Coke for like chill chats, right? Except me, just me. And no one does that with your companies either. Like it's a really hard problem for small business that people aren't going to look you up. They're not going to message you unless they're complaining. So how do you get this interaction going? It's a really big issue. So again, let's go over the interaction algorithm. So it's who you click on, interact with, or look up. It can be brands or people. It can be influenced by using Messenger and DM, so direct messages. It can change within a span of 3 days, guys. So if you see something from NASA, you click on it, 3 days later you see another NASA update, you don't click on it, what happens? You stop seeing NASA updates. It can be that immediate. And the algorithm works harder for people with more friends and followers. So as I said, I have about 5,000 friends on Facebook now. I'm at the max. So the algorithm has to work very hard to actually go through my feed and like show me what I'm going to see because there's so much content. Someone like my mom, she's got like 30 friends, so she just sees everything, which is why another reason why she sees everything I post. So, all right, we're going to go into relevancy, okay? This is broken down into two different sections. Predictions about person and trending content. So we're going to get into predictions about person first using this example. There's Doge again. So dogs and cats, that's my cat, Davy Jones. He's a dreamboat. Look at his little face. So cute. Can I get an awe? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I actually use dogs and cats when explaining this concept to elementary schools. I don't know what level you guys are at, so we're going to start with this, okay? You can see how it's handled. So if you guys can put your hand up, who prefers dogs over cats? Get out of here. Sweet. All right, can I see hands up for cat people? Yeah, we're outnumbered. This sucks. Okay, cats are smarter. It's just, people just don't understand. All right, so here's the thing. Let's say you're a dog person, okay? And so every time you see a dog photo on Facebook or on Instagram, you like hover over top of it for a while, you click on it, you expand it, you comment, oh, so cute. Well, actually, Facebook, Instagram, they all know that you're a dog person. They all know. So that means when cat content comes into your feed, you're not even going to see it. So let's say one of your friends' cats was going to die. It was like it needed money for like a surgery. I know everyone's like, this just got really grim. Let's say it needed money. They need money for a fundraiser. You're actually not even going to see that post because Facebook's like, they like dogs. Don't send them the cat content. They don't need to see that. They're not going to react to it. This is actually how the algorithm works in terms of people. It predicts what you're interested in based on things like what you click on, what you post, even what you Google search. And there's not room in the algorithm for two components a lot of the time. So there's not room for cats and dogs in the algorithm. Now, do you know what else there isn't room for? I think you guys are ready for the next step, the adult step. There's not room for two political candidates, okay? There's only room for one. Now, I have a degree in politics. I actually have no marketing background, believe it or not. So when the US election was happening, I actually predicted exactly what was going down because I saw what was going on with the algorithm. And with the algorithm, let's say I see a Trump post in my Facebook feed. And whether I'm happy about it, or it makes me laugh, or I'm sad about it, or I'm angry, if I react to that post, if I do any of the reactions, if I share it privately with a friend, if I click on the article to open it, if I comment on it, it doesn't matter whether I'm mad or happy. Facebook's like, Danny's interested in Trump. Let's send her all the Trump content. No Clinton content. This is literally what happened with the election. Okay, so everyone was reacting to Trump, so he got all the media, free media on social, and there's no room for the other candidates online. Now, as you can imagine, this has a really big power for anything online. So if you own if you're like a dog walker, or if you have a pet store, and you're posting content like cat stuff, but all your fans are into dogs, and you're like, why is no one seeing my content? This might be one of the reasons. The algorithm only has room for certain levels of interests that people have. Now, interests can vary. They don't have to be political and animal. They can be things like TV shows or books or what you like doing on the weekend or where you live or any of these kind of new age target market demographics. So now target markets have gone to a whole new place. It's not just about your age, where you live, and what gender you are. Now it's like, what do you watch on Netflix? That's actually a target market demographic. What do you do on the weekends? Are you married? Are you a vegan? Do you have a dog? Do you like Doge? These are all questions that marketing experts ask because it's easier to target people online and their behaviors because of that algorithm and how it works. So, another thing that happens is if you Google something. This is a question you will all Google after this, I know. Why am I so cool? It's hard to figure out. Google probably won't tell you. But if you were to Google this and you were friends with me on Facebook, you would start seeing all my updates the next day. Your Google searches are connected to your Facebook, even if you do it on your phone, even if you do it on someone else's computer, but you're like connected to Wi-Fi that's connected to your phone. It doesn't matter. It all connects back, even if you're logged out of Facebook. You might have noticed this. Maybe you were online shopping for something like secret for like your wife or something. You bought her like a new set of Hinkle knives. You're like, this is gonna be the best secret. And then she's on her Facebook and like the ads on the side are like the knives and you're just like, you look like Doge. You're like, right? That happens because of the algorithm. So that's why that works. Now the internet's like interested in knives. They know that they think you're like a serial killer or something. So your ads are gonna reflect that. So how many people watch Game of Thrones here? Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. So the other reason why I'm talking about Game of Thrones right now is not just because it's the best show ever, but because the other part of this algorithm rule has a really big impact on things like Game of Thrones. So what is trending actually changes how the algorithm works. So I use this example with everyone I speak to. I spoke in Parliament to senators and MPs, and I was literally like, sorry guys, you're going to have to post about Game of Thrones next week. They were like, we can't do that. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm an MP. I was like, so? So I'm going to explain why now, okay? Basically, if Game of Thrones is coming out on a Sunday, the entire internet is shut down. Everyone is talking about Game of Thrones. So I work with a life insurance company, okay? Now, life insurance is one of the hardest kind of companies to post social media content for because it's life insurance, right? It's pretty dry. So I call them, I'm like, yo, what do you want to post this Sunday? They're like, something about life insurance. I'm like, we can't do that. Aside from the fact that we should just never do that, it's also Sunday, it's Game of Thrones. I'm like, we got to figure out something to do with Game of Thrones. They're like, we're corporate, we can't post about Game of Thrones. I'm like, we have to. Now, why? It's because whatever's trending on the internet changes the algorithm. So it could be anything. If the Oscars are on, that's what the internet is about that day. If there's a disaster, that's what the internet is about that day. If Game of Thrones is happening, that's what the internet is about. There's pretty much something happening every day, right? So it's very difficult to actually post your own unique content if you're like, we have coffee and a muffin for $2.49. If everyone's like, Game of Thrones, right? Everyone's like freaking out. So what do? This is where you have to learn to cross-contaminate. When I say cross-contaminate, I mean you're taking two ideas, like life insurance, Game of Thrones, and trying to smash them together in a really unique and genuine way that doesn't seem cheesy. And this is the key, not making it cheesy. So I couldn't post from the life insurance company being like, have a good Game of Thrones watching day. Because like I haven't connected it back to life insurance, right? Or if a coffee shop was like, enjoy Game of Thrones today, again, you're missing the point. How do you connect what you have, your story, your brand, your knowledge, connect it back to something that is trending that your target market is also interested in, okay? Now this is what I did for the life insurance company. I did a poll that said, what Game of Thrones character needs life insurance the most this episode? Right? So basically people were voting on who was gonna die, which is grim, but it's life insurance, right? So that's okay. And this was really, really successful. It was great. And I've done these kinds of things for all the businesses I work with. I might work with a real estate company, and we do an MLS listing of the Game of Thrones properties as if they were priced in Toronto, so like ridiculous, right? Or we might do, for a dentist, I might find like pictures of people in Game of Thrones with horrible teeth, and then just post, don't forget to brush. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you're connecting back something with something else that is trending. Now here's a few more examples I found online. Another real estate article someone posted. There's a bath bomb company I know that actually did a Game of Thrones bath bomb that had like a ring on the inside from a Game of Thrones character. So they actually made content, like they actually created a product so their content actually reflected what was going on in the world. As you can see, it's sold out, so they did well. And then this guy actually baked at his bakery, he like baked Game of Thrones cookies, which was funny because he actually got like press like internationally because of these cookies. So it's like a small bakery suddenly explodes because of the cookies. Here's a great story. I was teaching a workshop, and there's a woman in my class who owned a carpet company, and she's like, excuse me, Danny, I will never be able to connect carpet back to Game of Thrones. And I was like, hold on. So I go to Google and I type in Game of Thrones carpet, and I find this article. And I'm like, this is perfect. So we posted it on her Facebook page, pushed it towards fans of Game of Thrones, used the boost towards fans of Game of Thrones in Toronto. And her post got like 2,000 likes that day, just because people thought it was so great, and it was like a rug company sharing it, right? And people love seeing that. They love seeing businesses connect back to what is actually going on in the world. Now, this connecting of ideas takes practice. It's not easy to do, which is why I have a job. However, it is easy if you start practicing. So what I would really recommend if you guys want to start practicing doing this, make a list of businesses that are not you. So do like really dry ones again, like real estate, financial planning, car repair. Make a list of about 5 to 10, and every time you see something happening in the world, for practice, just go through that list and try to find ways to connect those. If you start practicing this on a daily basis, what will happen is that you'll hear something's going on. It's be like National Clapping Day. You're going to be like, boom, and you already will have an idea to connect your business back to that trending topic in a genuine way, okay? It's going to be a way for you to actually take your brand and merge it with what the rest of society is actually talking about. You're suddenly going to become a social entity, because being social is about actually connecting with what everyone else is talking about. That's what being social is. It's not about just presenting your own information. It's about interacting and participating in the internet. Now, if you guys ever want to see what is trending, there's a few things you can do. Either look up trending hashtags on Google. So if you had looked that up on the day that the eclipse was going on, you remember that eclipse that happened that like literally everyone was obsessed with? Do you remember? There you go. I'm like, hello. Okay. That eclipse, right? It seemed as though literally everyone in Toronto was just like stopped being like staring at the eclipse. But really what happened is you probably clicked on like one eclipse thing online, and Facebook was like, they're interested in the eclipse. So they started sending you every eclipse piece of content, and it was like this cycle of death, but for the eclipse. So this is an example of Apothic Wine. They actually do some really cool content. When Game of Thrones was out, they had like their wine bottles sitting on the Iron Throne. It was kind of neat. So they did one when the eclipse came out, and they were like, we're going to put our wine bottle in front of the sun as if we're in an eclipse. Pretty simple, but it ended up getting them quite a bit of attention online. So you can either Google or, if you want, to go online and check the sidebars of Facebook and Twitter. It's going to tell you every day what's going on. It's really, really simple to find, and if you write about any of these things, it will help you. Now, one of the big do not do's is actually posting about disaster, okay? So when Bowie died, it was a really bad day for social, in that, especially for businesses I work with, we schedule a lot of our posts with the companies I work with. I had to literally run to my computer to unschedule and delete any posts that had gone out that day, because obviously it looks completely insensitive posting about anything but David Bowie dying on that day. However, it also looks completely insensitive posting about David Bowie dying on that day unless you have some sort of actual genuine connection to Bowie. So don't take disasters and try to jump on board of that. I know there's quite a few speakers actually who say, yeah, jump on board of it, do whatever you can for your company, but it's definitely not a good thing to do that. So I would stay clear from using this algorithm rule for anything like deaths or disasters, okay? Let's go over the relevant algorithm again. Predictions about person, so what you click on, search, and post about changes your feeds and your ads. And you must post to what your target market is interested in. So you need to know your target market and what they are interested in. If you don't know, you're not going to be able to post for them, and that should be your job. And then trending. Content that is trending will cut through the algorithm if you're actually posting about it. And it increases meaningful interaction, because if you're posting about Game of Thrones and everyone's talking about Game of Thrones, it's likely that those people are going to comment on your post. So it's a really great way to kind of spark the other algorithms at the same time. The last algorithm rule is the most depressing one, so I'm really sorry, guys. This is going to be a grim experience. You're probably wondering why sometimes when you post something really informative about your business, like a coffee being on sale or an event you're running, it doesn't get much attention, but then if you post a random photo of a cat, it explodes, right? That's because of the promotional algorithm. So here, we're going to rip on H&M a little bit more. Their brilliant social media person decided to post this. It got all of 10 likes, so it did very well. This is an ad, obviously. They're posting essentially an advertisement, right? Now, Facebook actually made a rule about 2 years ago saying we want to keep as much content as possible on the newsfeed being social. We don't want it to be promotional. And anything promotional is going to be out of that 1 in 20 spot that they're going to give an ad. So you actually have to pay to get that 1 in 20 spot if your content is promotional. Now, what does Facebook deem as promotional? Anything with your name in it, anything with your own hashtag in it, with your own website in it, that's linking back to your own YouTube channel. Anything with verbiage like come to, buy now, click here, sale, 20% off, anything like that. So this obviously gets stopped by the Facebook algorithm from getting organically to the feed. And anything that seems promotional will actually get stopped as well by Facebook. And it goes the same on Instagram as well. The important thing to know is that if you do try to push something promotional, you've got to put some ad budget behind it to get that 1 in 20 spot in the feed, or just don't post it, okay? Really important that if no one's going to see it, is it important to post really, right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. So it's so important to keep your content social, literally so you can get seen through the Facebook algorithm. Okay, so now that we understand the algorithm, what is the power of getting a page like? If we now are like, cool, no one's going to actually see our content if they like our page, what's the point in having followers and what's the point in having likes anyway, right? So we're going to take a look at 2 analytics first. So one is called reach and one is called impressions. Now what reach is, you guys have probably seen that on Facebook. You post something and it's like, reach of 10, and you're like, ugh, right? That actually means that you reached 10 people. 10 people saw your post. They could have seen it 20 times. It doesn't matter. It's only counting it as 1. So Facebook's reach is a really good analytic because it actually tells you unique views, okay? Instagram also gives you this analytic. The other analytic that's important is impressions. This one's available on Twitter and Instagram as well. Impressions is how many times people saw it. So impressions are actually how they sell billboards on the highway. So you might go to buy a billboard on the Gardner and they're 2 million impressions. There's not a dude sitting on the billboard with binoculars being like, oh, that's Danny's car. It's for the 5th time today in traffic. So we're only going to count that as 1, right? They count it as 5. So that's how you can remember impressions. Just think of me on the billboard with binoculars. Impressions is how many times. Reach is how many people. Impressions will always be more than reach. It's actually why I really dislike Twitter analytics, because I feel like they're a lie. Because it could be 1,000 impressions could actually be 1 person that it just like scrolled back and forth, like a million times. So now that we know these two statistics, let's get into Doge again. So this Doge, his name is Bob. And let's say Bob has one friend, and Bob's one friend is Joe. And Joe and Bob are each other's only friends on Facebook. They're grim, lonely people. And Bob has liked your Facebook page, and he's your only like. I'm sorry. Okay? So you're bummed out. And every time you post something, Bob like comments, likes, shares. He's doing everything he can to support your business. But does it really matter? Not really, because all that happens is that Joe signs on, sees Bob's stuff. So when you check your analytics, it's going to be 2 reach. This cannot get any bigger unless you get another page like or Bob gets more friends. Those are the only 2 options, okay? So you cannot grow your reach at all unless one of those 2 things happen. Now, there's a whole other example though, of having one page like and getting a whole different amount of analytics in your pocket here. So let's check it out. Lady Gaga, okay? So let's say Lady Gaga has liked your page, and she's your one page like. Okay? Still looks the same to you. You're like, cool, we got one like, no big deal. But the next day when you check your analytics, you have like 12 million reach. That's way better, right? So did it really matter that you only had one page like? Nah. What mattered was the quality of that like. And so quality over quantity is a really important thing when it comes to fans. Questions like, does your fan interact with your content? Does your fan have a large reach that is also engaged? And is your fan's network also part of that target market? Those questions are very important. Now, it could be more valuable having 10 page likes of people who are really into your company, who have a very large reach, who are engaged, their markets are big, than having 34 million page likes like H&M with no one that does anything. Right? So it's important to remember that. 10 page likes could be more valuable than 34 million. So keep that in mind when you look at your page likes. Don't stress about the number. Worry about who's liking your page and worry about catering your content to them so they actually interact. Now this is actually where influencer marketing has come from. The idea that you can use other people's reach to enhance your own stats instead of using your own. And now that businesses know how the promotional algorithm works on Facebook, you might wonder, okay, well, why is H&M not doing anything useful on Facebook? They probably don't care because they're probably hiring a bunch of influencers to wear H&M stuff, and then they're taking photos and posting it on their Facebook pages, and they're getting tons of reach there. So brands can actually use other people to promote themselves since they can't promote themselves. So for instance, if H&M can't post H&M clothes, someone else can post H&M clothes. It's not deemed as promotional anymore. If an influencer is posting a photo of an H&M shirt, they're not promoting anything. Facebook reads it as a social post because they're not H&M. So cross-promotion is very important. If you have any friends in this room, I work with quite a few BIAs, and the best thing that they can do is have the businesses work together to share each other's content. Because if you're a coffee shop and another business, and you can actually share each other's content, it's going to go further than if you share your own content. Okay, so find friends, use each other's networks. It's really, really valuable and important. This comes to one of my final points here about content creation. It used to be that you needed to post every single day on social media. That is no longer a thing. So you guys should be stoked because it's less work for you, right? You only need to post about 2 to 3 times a week. And even on Twitter, that's the same with Instagram. The reason being is that if you're over-posting, so if you're posting every day, let's say you post on Monday, and the post is actually pretty good, like people are liking it and enjoying it and commenting, and then you post on Tuesday, Facebook's like, do we send this out to people now? Sure, so they send that out. But people just commented on your post on Monday, so they're like, they see it, they don't feel a need to comment on it the second day, so they're not going to comment on it. And that means your interaction on your page is going to go down, and that means that first post isn't going to continue to get spread. So the best thing you can do is that you post something and give it a few days. Let it actually sit. Let people interact. Let them comment. You don't need to post daily anymore. It actually hurts your algorithm score to overpost. So it's a great time saver, but on the other hand, you have to focus about quality over quantity for content as well. So I like using this little theory that if you post 3 times a week, that you're going to be posting 2 social posts and 1 more promotional post. If you have to promote something promotional, this is the way you should do it. As you can see, I have them overlapping. So the idea here is that your social posts have like 5% of promotion in them. Like that Apothic wine image with the eclipse, theoretically the wine is in the photo. So you could say it's promotional, but they've dressed it up like a fully social post because it's about what's trending, right? That life insurance post, we're still mentioning life insurance. So I've got that 5% promotional in there. Now on the other hand, with your promotional, we're not straight up being like, we're having a sale, come buy this. We're still trying to get 10% social in there. So how can we make something promotional still seem relevant to people? How do we still make it targeted towards our market and not just for ourselves? Now, the other cool thing about this theory I've come up with is that if you sandwich your promotional post in between 2 social posts, it will have a little bit more pull organically, because hopefully in that first social post you posted, people will have interacted and engaged. And so your next post, they're probably going to see organically because they've already interacted. So it's a good way to kind of put your promotional stuff in between 2 social posts just to kind of fuel it organically a little bit better. Next really important thing, think outside the box with content, okay? And what does thinking outside the box mean? It means that if I'm posting for a life insurance company, I'm not ever posting about life insurance still. I'm just going to be posting about things to do with life insurance. So how do I look outside the box on that? I start wondering, well, what else has to do with life insurance that's connected to my brand, that my target market wants to know about, that is also social? Maybe I break down some ideas like health, fitness, okay, food, finances, retirement. I can make a whole web of content, that can help me direct my content, and then I can keep an eye on what's trending. So if an article comes out in the Toronto Star that's like, baby boomers are never retiring again, you can actually grab that and talk about it with your own flair. What do you want to say about it? What's your opinion on it? What do you want to ask your target market about it? You can take content that is not yours and use it in whatever way you want. Now here's another tip for you guys. You can actually take anything off Google Images and use it on your social media as well. A lot of people don't know this. You can use a photo like Doge, for instance. You can post it and be like, what's up on Monday? You can't use this photo and be like, click here to buy these socks. Okay? So you can't use online content to sell anything, but you can use it for social content as much as you want. Your Facebook page isn't deemed as ownership of you. It's actually just public. So you're fully allowed posting content that you find online. So use the internet to find content. If you know Game of Thrones is on or Walking Dead and you're like, I don't even watch The Walking Dead, but my target market definitely watches it, how do I actually find this content? Go to Google, type in Walking Dead coffee and see what comes up. Check to see if someone else has done something about it that you can help use for your own content, okay? Make it as relevant as possible to your own brand. You want to stay genuine to yourself, and you want to interact in other people's feeds as well as much as possible. Don't use social media just to post. Get on Twitter, follow people, talk to people. Do the same on Instagram. Look up a hashtag. Like other people's content. The more you interact with other people, the more other people are going to interact with yours. My final note here, take it easy on my fellow millennials. It's not our fault we're addicted to the internet. All right, thanks guys. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram. I think we have time for a few questions. We don't have time for questions. Scratch that. Goodbye.